Yo, welcome back again today, guys. And today we'll be talking about a African American, and this is very historical in America. We are going to be talking about Nat Turner. Yes, the one and only Nat Turner, right? So let's get right into it. Nat Turner is a very, very important story, and we're going to talk about it today. Let's get right into it, all right? So Nat Turner was born on October 2nd, 1800 in Southampton County, Virginia. Nat Turner stamped his name in history by leading a historical slave revolt in America during the slavery time period. Turner was born on a plantation owned by Benjamin Turner, and when Benjamin Turner went broke and then soon died after he went broke, Nat Turner became the property of Samuel Turner, in which was Benjamin Turner's brother. Before being sold, Benjamin Turner, the slave owner, taught Nat Turner to read and write, and he also spoke other languages outside of English. We must note that Turner was very intellectual and knew more than the average slave did at the time. Now, Nat Turner's mother was named Nancy, and his father was believed to have escaped from slavery some time before. During Nat Turner's childhood, he was thought to have very special talents, and this was due to him describing things that happened before he was born. Nat spent his whole life in Southampton County, which was a plantation area and where majority of the population were slaves. Even some people around him would say that he would be a prophet one day, and his grandmother and mother told him that he was intended for great purposes. And Nat Turner spent much of his time praying, fasting, and reading the Bible. Turner had many visions, and he interpreted them as a message from God. With these visions and his belief in them, Nat Turner ran away from his original owner's brother's plantation at the age of 22. Nat Turner hid in the woods during his escape, though soon after, in about a month's time, Nat Turner returned after seeing a vision which was a spiritual revelation to him and was a sign from God. With Samuel Turner's death, Nat Turner became the slave of Thomas More and then the property of his widow. When she married John Travis, Nat Turner went to work on Travis's lands. This shows that Nat Turner had worked on many plantations. Turner had many Baptist services as well that were very frequent. At these services, he would preach the Bible to fellow slaves. These slaves called him the prophet, and Nat Turner's service was so good that he even attracted white followers as well. Nat Turner even convinced some of the whites to cease their wickedness as well. 1825, Nat Turner had another vision and heard divine voices. Turner foresaw a bloody conflict between white and black spirits, and 3 years later, he would have another vision from God. This vision showed Turner that he should take on the fight against slavery and slave owners as well. Nat Turner then had his last vision before the rebellion, and this sign told him when to fight, as well as he should prepare himself and arise and to slay his enemies with their own weapons. On February 1831, a solar eclipse occurred, and this was a signal that the time had come to rise up. And Nat Turner then recruited several other slaves to join him in his cause. At first, all Nat Turner's followers were slaves from nearby areas. They had to find ways to communicate with each other without giving away their plan. Song is believed to be one of the ways that Nat Turner summoned his group to the woods. On August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner and his supporters began their revolt against white slave owners with the killing of the Travis family. Then soon after, traveling from house to house, killing whites and gathering more freed slaves. Turner's group grew to 70 plus slaves and free blacks, and once he acquired more men, they continued their revolt through the county. Due to Turner not wanting to alert people when he was carrying out his attacks, Turner and his group used hatchets, axes, knives, and other instruments instead of guns. It must be noted too that Nat Turner did spare a few homes that housed poor white people and who thought no better of themselves than they did Negroes. Turner also thought that the violence would awake white people to the reality of slavery, and Turner also stated he wanted to spread terror and alarm among white people. While strategically moving through the county, Nat Turner and his men secured horses, arms, and supplies from those they had killed. Now, during Nat Turner's rebellion, between 50 to 60 white women, men, and children died. Initially, Turner had planned to reach the county seat of Jerusalem and take over the armory there, but he and his men were stopped by a group of armed white men at a plantation near Jerusalem. And the conflict soon dissolved into chaos after 2 days, and Turner himself fled into the woods. After the rebellion, a reward notice described Turner as this: 5 feet 6 or 8 inches high, weighs between 150 and 160 pounds, rather bright complexion, but not a mulatto, broad shoulders, large flat nose, large eyes, broad flat feet, walks brisk and active, hair on top of the head very thin, no beard, except on the upper lip and top of the chin, a scar on one of his temples, also one on the back of his neck. While Nat Turner stayed in the woods for some time, white mobs sought out revenge on blacks in the county. Between 100 to 200 African Americans were killed by the mobs. Nat Turner was discovered on October 30th by a farmer named Benjamin Phipps. Benjamin Phipps found Turner hiding in a hole covered with fence rails. Turner was soon after represented by lawyer Thomas R. Gray, who wrote Turner's confession. Turner pled not guilty during his trial, believing that his rebellion was the work of God. Now, soon after, he was sentenced by death by hanging, being skinned, as well as being beheaded as well. And this sentence was carried out on November 11th, 1831. Turner had no formal burial, and it is not known of what happened to his remains. They were either buried unmarked or used for scientific purposes. It is said that the skull passed through many hands and was last reported in a collection of planned civil rights museums in Gary, Indiana. Many from his group shared his same fate. 30 were convicted, 18 hanged, and 13 sold out of state, with very few acquitted. Soon after Turner's death, Thomas R. Gray published The Confessions of Nat Turner. This publish was made using the information gathered while Nat Turner was on his rebellion, and the other half was acquired by having conversations with Turner in the jailhouse before the trial. White mobs and militias would soon after kill blacks who had nothing to do with the rebellion at all. This revolutionary act put fear in Southerners' hearts, and Southern states enacted even harsher laws against slaves. Nat Turner's actions also added more fuel to abolitionists in the North. In Virginia and other Southern states, state legislations passed new laws to control slaves and free blacks. They prohibited education of slaves and free blacks, restricting rights of assembly for free blacks, withdrew their right to bear arms in some states, voting, and requiring white ministers to be present at all black worship services as well. So today we learned about another African American, a historical African American that led a revolt, led a rebellion, was having signs from God, and he was a fellow slave that learned more than the average slave was allowed to learn. So today we learned about another black man, very prominent, very important figure in the history of the whole world, not just American history. And as always, yo, until next time, be safe, always stick with each other, and know your history. Yo, I'm out. Peace. One love.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
Shalom.
What up?
Hi.
African.
We